live. Okay, so anyhow, this session, as you guys saw, we're really pulling it together. We're talking about what the role has been for advocates historically, and we're going to be talking about your role in it, because by you being here, being a part of this, but also whatever means that brought you to us in the first place, you are change makers, you're advocates, and so you are a part now of this disability advocacy history and culture. And so I hope this training in particular helps you to remember the important role you all play in this. So I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful trainers, Everett and Allie.
Thank you. I cannot believe that this is our last full training.
Yeah.
And then we just have graduation, which will be so fun. I know that Josie's going to probably speak a little bit to that at the end, but if bears repeating now that register if you haven't already for graduation. I know
and I love the fact that you can see in my man cave because it is light enough for us to be
that's how long
daylight outside while we're doing this. I realized how much I look like I was in darkness for all those months prior to this, and now it's like it's spring. It's nice.
Yeah, now we can see the cowboys.
And this is my favorite topic of all the topics. I love this one, so hopefully I won't geek out too much on tangents on this.
Yeah,
but
I'll rope you back in, Ev.
You got it.
All right, so we are. Oh, actually, I'm on like the wrong slide. Don't want to give away secrets. All right. We are going to be talking about understanding your place in history. And can you guys still see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We are going to be doing, talking about a few different things today, but really, like Josie said, kind of trying to wrap all of this into why we're here, why we've been talking about advocacy and telling your story the way that we have been for the past several months, and really bringing us from the past into the present, and then also what we can do with that information in the future. And then we're going to watch a couple videos today too, I think so.
I think it's just one. I just want to make sure people know that resources are available too. Go ahead.
Yes, good point. So from last month to now, again, we're just kind of continuing to have you all work on your stories, putting such an emphasis on that because it's really the most important part of why we're here. We did talk about identifying a personal brand, expanding our experiences so that we can really kind of build that advocacy portfolio, and be presenting ourselves to the public really, and to those that we want to work with in the best way that we can.
Well, so, I'm sorry. And I think it's really cool, Josie. I think that there are so many people here, and I know so many people have partaken in opportunities that have been given to them since being a part of Trail. And that's exactly what this is about, is giving you those opportunities to learn, to craft your story and then expand your experience and figure out who you are as an advocate and keep growing. And so to me, this is like the final piece of this puzzle tonight, I think, really.
Yep. And you can tell that by all the check marks that we have on here, Everett. I'm a type A personality, so checking things off my list is like my favorite thing in the world. So you can see how much that we have talked about and how much you guys have been working on drafting your story, communicating that story, building relationships with people who you can tell your story to, creating a network, focusing your public speaking on specific audiences, and then really trying to explore different platforms and approaches to how you can be getting your message out there. And then again, this last piece where we're going to understand our place in history. So today specifically, discussing some of that disability history, learning about how that relates to our work today, and then how our own history personally and our story connects to the larger disability rights movement. So we always like to start with why this is important. And we really want to have a greater understanding. So understanding where we've sort of been helps to move us forward. Without understanding that piece, we might not really get all of my quarter words again, Everett, all the nuances of history and what we can do and what our part is. So we want to think about how has advocacy been done in the past? You know, this is an Everett phrase, I feel like, and I love it so much. We all stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us, which is such a great metaphor, meaning without everything that everyone has done in the past, we wouldn't be able to approach things the way that we do now. And we want to take lessons from them. Anyone that came before us, we want to think about how they did it, what worked, what didn't work, making sure that we're leveraging the wisdom that they have, which really requires us to take some time to listen and understand what they've been doing, what they've done in the past. What was their own story growing up? You know, what was their journey to become the advocates that they've been?
I think Josie just lumped me in with Isaac Newton, so I don't know. I mean, maybe that was his thing. She's gonna say it wasn't me, but Allie knows that I always say those kind of things, right? That like we have to make sure to understand that we stand on this road to come before us.
I love it.
Right, and I think understanding where advocacy has been and understanding the stories of the past can really help you be a better advocate and help you understand who you are. Sorry, my daughter's yelling for daddy right now too, if you can hear her out there.
She gets it. She's our future. We're talking about past, Everett, and Mackenzie in the future.
It's okay. Okay. So, and you'll see some links in here, and I encourage you, if you have not read about Judy Heumann, Ed Roberts, and Justin Dart, that there are links to videos and articles in there if you'd like to learn about them. But chances are, if you're around the disability rights movement and around advocacy, you will hear these names, right? Judy Heumann was really, really instrumental in advocacy for the Rehab Act, which gave people with disabilities equal access to like federal buildings and federal programs, sort of, right? And then you have Ed Roberts, who's kind of known as the father of independent living and creating the first Center for Independent Living and helping to expand that movement in those places across the country and the world. And these are really, really, Ed Roberts is, I would say, one of my heroes. And then Justin Dart is known as the father of the ADA. And he did a lot of the advocacy and really supported the political movement to get the ADA passed into law, using his political influence and his financial abilities, right? His money, right? So he had political influence and financial means to be able to support the movement of creating the ADA, which we all benefit from now today. And one of the key things, if you don't know about these three, is that they are all people with disabilities advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. And the thing that I would say is that while it is not in a school history book, if you're around this movement long enough, you will hear about them if you don't already know. And I encourage you to do as much research as you can, because I'll be honest, for me personally, I was anti, you're not gonna believe, I'm a trainer for doing this stuff now, so this is gonna be crazy, but I was anti the movement early on in my life, right? I didn't want to associate. I was okay with being a person with a disability, but I didn't need to be with them or around other people. I was just me, and I was different than everybody else. And then when I finally realized that I'm not different than everybody else and that we're all one community, I dove knee deep, actually head first, I guess, Josie, right, into learning about all this history. And I think I might still have Josie's books. So, and old magazines and different things that she let me read and just study. I think I actually studied this more than my college academics. So for a while. And so I encourage you to learn about them, to immerse yourself in what their stories are, and hopefully you've heard of them. And if not, we hope that you will soon.
Yeah. And I think that those names you even mentioned at Everett, they might not be in a textbook that you're learning in a history class, but if you're around the disability rights movement at all, if you've read anything, you hear those names or you read about those individuals. And that can sometimes feel incredibly overwhelming. You know, Everett was mentioning that he and I similarly did not feel the need to be a part of a movement. And I think some of that was because it felt so much bigger than what I myself as an individual could really tackle. And that's overwhelming. So we wanted to kind of talk about the bigger side of things, right? The really big names in the disability rights history movement. But we also want to talk a little bit about what you don't always hear. So Everett, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, back in the day, people like a lot of the advocacy that was done before it was done by people with disabilities were done by family members of like people with disabilities, like their parents and other loved ones. And there was tons of people who worked behind the scenes to help create change, right? So while there are people who are the face of that, like a Judy Heumann, and Ed Roberts, a Justin Dart, it takes a community to make those things happen. And I think that one of the things that we kind of realized as we're doing this, like we were doing research for this and kind of pulling things together. And I said, you know what? Trail is an example of this, right?
Absolutely.
What we're doing here is an example of this. And I'll kind of give Josie a little toot of her own horn. She won't say this, but she was just inducted into a mentoring Hall of Fame for doing work like this next to people like, I don't want to say, is Judy in that Hall of Fame also, Josie? I want to make sure I'm right before I just say that on YouTube.
She's nodding,
right?
yes.
Yeah, so Josie won't toot her own horn that way, but she is kind of pushing towards the status of a person like that and is striving to, and Trail is a great example of this community being built where there's veteran advocates that have been doing this for a while and new ones, and we're all supporting each other to make a bigger difference. And so we want you to realize that you don't have to be a face of anything to make change. Just being a part of a group like this and supporting each other and giving your perspective and sharing your story when you're able to makes a difference. So
and not only do you not have to be the face, but I think Josie would be the first to say that she did not do it by herself. You know, she coordinated so much and put so much time and effort into it, but Josie loves to do things like Trail, and as did other big names in the disability rights movement. They pull people in and they create those networks and they raise other people's voices up so that they can all be heard. And that's really what we want to get at today.
Well, and all of the Trail guys are trying to do that too, right? Yep. Sorry, Joes.
I just want to say, like, and I want to mention, like, to those of you who are thinking, like, how do I get involved? Like, Everett, Allie, and Josie, like, it was perfect setup, perfect timing. Like, for me, it was just that I happened to be at the right, like, at a conference that I didn't want to be at, that I got involved in disability. So it's not like there has to be this perfect magical experience or you meet the right person. It's different for all of us.
Well, and I don't want to speak for Bob either, right? Because he's been doing this for a long time. But I think when he shared his perspective on this, it was that he did a lot of this work for his own selfish, like he wanted, stuff for his own community and for his own experience. And through that, got connected to other people and started to work with other people to connect them to other opportunities and other experiences. And so sometimes it is just luck. And I got involved because I wanted to meet girls. That's why I got involved, and then realized that I loved the whole. Yeah. My friends went to a conference, and I was like, "Hey, where do you meet all these girls at?" And they were like, "There's these conferences, you wouldn't like them." And I ended up going and falling in love with the conference, and not so much not for romance, but it was definitely because of what the movement was about. And it was pretty amazing for me. So,
out of curiosity, did you meet your wife at those conferences?
I did not, actually. I did not. Although I did meet her in a class about people with disabilities. So I guess that's still cheating.
But I met my husband at a conference.
Yeah.
And I met Allie and Everett and all of those that I actually know in person here. They were like at conferences.
So I think, Allie, you're pulling up the video, right?
Yep. So we're going to play a video. There aren't live captions while we watch the video. Am I correct?
They'll be on the screen through YouTube, but they're not on the video themselves, unless CBS recently added them.
Okay. I have the CBS one up. So you'll have, if we need captions, we'll have them later, right? As a part of the training, Josie?
They should appear right now under the app.
Oh.
They're on right now through Zoom.
Alrighty.
So they should be okay. Now, so to give context to this video, if you haven't had a chance to watch Crip Camp yet on Netflix.
It's not this, if you're wondering. This is just.
No, it is not. No, it is not. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, I would encourage you to do so. It is a great documentary, and it was up for an Oscar recently. And so CBS this morning did a great feature on it, and you're going to get to see Judy Heumann and kind of see where her beginnings were. And I hope that you see some commonality between what they did and what we're doing with Trail in this virtual world.
It is an unexpected sight. All kinds of kids with all kinds of disabilities at summer camp, having the time of their lives. The year was 1971. The place, Camp Jened in New York's Catskill Mountains.
Wow, Camp Jened was a place that was a utopia.
Jim Lebrecht, born with spina bifida, was one of the campers.
It was a place where all of a sudden the rest of the outside world seemed to just disappear.
When you go back into your
Judy Heumann, who got polio at 18 months old, was a counselor.
You were really cute.
I really laughed when I saw the film. It was so funny to see me at 21.
And we are seeing this old footage now as part of a recent documentary called Crip Camp, short for the word crippled, which, let's face it, is not bandied about these days.
Why did you call it that, Jim?
We wanted to basically let people know that this wasn't your average film about disability, that there was an edge.
Jim Lebrecht is not only a major character in Crip Camp, he's also one of the filmmakers, collaborating with Emmy Award-winning documentarian Nicole Noonan.
Jim made me see disability as a culture. He made me see disability as a community.
We're going to talk about parents.
Jim vividly remembered this Camp Jened footage made by a freewheeling experimental group.
We are the People's Video Theater. Whatever actually you really want to say about yourselves, let us know.
They captured Camp Jened kids revealing some of their most personal feelings.
I think that it is talking about what everybody wants to be alone and us in their life.
In lighter moments, Jim Lebrecht got to shoot video himself, a camera strapped to his wheelchair.
Is this necessary? I mean, it's a simple one.
But Lebrecht had no idea what had become of the video after almost half a century.
And that was just incredibly enticing to me as a filmmaker. It felt like it would be the holy grail. I just spent night after night looking online.
She finally found it, and the footage became the starting point for the rest of the Netflix documentary, a project that attracted the Obamas as executive producers.
They really were creative partners.
Some of the campers, especially Judy Heumann, would become leaders in the disability rights movement.
You don't get to see footage of our great civil rights heroes at summer camp.
Human founded a group called Disabled in Action.
We decided that we were going to sit down in the street. We were going to stop traffic.
It was very important for all of us that we wanted people to see us.
You became one of several people from Camp Jened who moved out to Berkeley, California. Why'd you go out there?
I was offered a scholarship, and then a number of friends followed.
It almost felt like you were this little band of brothers and sisters.
Well, we were, really, and we still are.
In 1973, Congress passed a law giving the disabled limited protection.
If you get money from the federal government, you may not discriminate against someone based on disability.
But President Jimmy Carter's administration delayed approving new regulations needed before the law could actually take effect. Human helped lead a sit-in with scores of disabled people, including some from Camp Jened at a federal office building in San Francisco.
Protesters in wheelchairs, the lame, the palsied, and the blind have occupied the entire fourth floor since Tuesday.
The sit-in would go on for weeks. Finally, Human and a small delegation traveled to Washington, D.C. to gain attention, hauled around town in the back of a truck.
In Washington today, more than 100 people marched in front of the White House.
On the 23rd day of the San Francisco sit-in, the regulations were very quietly signed in Washington.
The Congress, the press, the American public has seen that we have stamina, strength, intelligence.
But remember, those new regulations only applied to certain places. Jim Lebrecht, a few years younger than his other camp friends, was starting work at a Berkeley theater, a job that required him to drag himself up this flight of stairs every day.
Did you ever just say to yourself, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to have to quit?
To be honest, no, I didn't. This job was a dream job for me. I felt like if I didn't succeed in this job, I didn't know what I was going to do.
But disabled Americans demanded change. They kept the pressure up, some even scaling the Capitol steps in peaceful protest. Finally, in 1990, Congress passed the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act, banning discrimination and requiring ramps and other assistance for disabled Americans nationwide.
Let the shameful wall of exclusion finally come tumbling down.
The Camp Jened gang celebrated at last year's Sundance Film Festival, when Crip Camp earned the Audience Award.
This was a love letter to the disabled community, and it is, and I'm so proud to be up here.
Now the film is on the short list for an Oscar nomination.
If we help people to reconsider how they see people with disabilities, or on a larger scale, anyone that's not quite like themselves, then we've achieved a great, great deal.
And Judy Human, who in 2010 went on to become the State Department's first advisor for international disability rights, believes that watching Crip Camp could bring a moment of truth for viewers.
And hopefully, some of those people will leave the film reflecting on how they have treated other disabled people, or how they may have a hidden disability that they've never been public about, and why that is.
So I hope that you can see the parallels. Now, I know many of you, like myself, probably attended a summer camp similar. And while we're not able to be together face to face, you can see that a lot of the footage is based around people sharing their story and perspective and gathering support and friendship and momentum around each other. And that's kind of what this is about. So as well, what'd you say, Joe? I'm trying to read that, but I can't. What did you say?
No, I'm sorry. There was a question from Mark on whether camps will be open. And
I don't know. Yeah, I get that.
It depends on the camp. And,
Right.
since then, there are a lot more disability camps. There's not necessarily a Crip camp per se, but there are a lot more disability camps.
Right. Well, and some people would say, well, what about, I just think for those that have been to them, you do feel a sense of community with them. And as much as we have over the last 10 months, I feel like we've created a community that's real, and where we share stories and perspective with each other. And so I wanted you to see the commonality between what was and what still is. So while we're doing this differently and how it's changed, and I think I was going to talk about that here in a minute, it is relatively still close to being the same.
Yeah, it's all centered around personal lived experiences and being comfortable with what that means for a bigger community, and sharing your story so that you can create change in the community around you. And while that all is the same, there's definitely some differences, which I think and Everett and Josie can all pitch in on this too. We all sort of had a conversation about how, again, it's that intimidating factor. They were pulling themselves up on the Capitol steps. They were sitting in the middle of streets or in buildings for days and days and days. And I think that was more common of the time. And now, just because you're not doing that, or because you're not comfortable doing that, whatever the case may be, doesn't mean that we can't create change. It just looks a little bit different. So some foundational advocacy methods that we want to recognize, different action at locations. So again, the buildings on the street, the Capitol building, what we're calling snail mail, which for those that don't know, snail mail is like the physical pieces of mail, like letters that they used to put in a mailbox, get sent out somewhere. Now we're really mobilizing technology to our benefit. So social media, email instead of the physical letters, writing what we think and our opinion on things in different blogs. I think I was flipping through screens. Laura, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. This might not, I apologize if this is completely irrelevant, but how do you think the whole Capitol riots thing and all the crap that has gone down at the Capitol recently will affect disabled advocacy? Because A, there's heightened security, and B, for disabled people, I've been to the buildings, the National Federal buildings, and A, there's only one entrance, which is accessible to each of them, which might be screwed up with the heightened security. And B, a lot of us require pat-down searches because of our equipment, and especially females, females have to wait while they get female officers to do pat-down searches. So I'm just listening to you talk about face-to-face advocacy. So I'm wondering if you've heard anything about how the recent...
Well, I think it's as much of what we know about COVID as we know about this. Like, we don't know what that's going to mean. Likewise with COVID, they're still not letting people in legally in the capitals and stuff. And so, I think that those are going to pan out over the next year still. But I think, disability or not, there will be a slower number or smaller number of people allowed in the Capitol with higher police presence. But I don't think that will directly be different for people with disabilities.
But Laura, I
And
think that
we can
brings
hit them more later.
I think that brings up such a great point, though, just about how society and about how the environments that we're putting ourselves in are constantly changing. And that means that as advocates, we need to be ready to be flexible in how we're getting our message out there. And we need to be adaptable with how we're doing that. And I think, I think it was last month or the month before that, why we talked about really utilizing so many different approaches, because it helps us with some of that adaptability and flexibility too. Right. So when we're saying mobilizing technology, I mean, like Josie mentioned, COVID, all of these sorts of security measures are such great examples of why, we are really benefiting from the technology of today and trying to utilize that to our benefit.
Well, and the other thing I'll say as Ali switches slides is that you'll notice that in that history, they talked about how people rode in trucks to get to the Capitol building in DC, and they just adapted to their environment and connected with the community. And so part of that is true for everything. And we're just blessed that we have technology to be able to adapt with to make it easier and to hopefully have a profound impact.
So
I'm sorry, Ali.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, like Ali mentioned also about there's not quite as much like physical protesting like the sit-ins. And one other reason is there's more wheelchair accessible cop cars. And so they can haul our butts away. And so that's a part of it too. So, there's a little bit less sit-ins. They still happen, but part of it's also that they can take us away in those little vans.
Yeah.
I hate to laugh about that, but it's funny.
It is.
They had to figure out how to arrest us.
Right.
I mean,
and you have to think about we talked a lot in the beginning about change makers too. And Josie was able to bring some of those change makers in who spoke about how they are receiving information. And as we go through time, how the individuals that we want to get our message out to, how they receive information is also changing. So again, we just really need to kind of be flexible with how we approach our advocacy and telling our story. And the more that we are diverse in the way that we do that, I think the more effective we become. So Ev, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how history impacts us.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So, and we've kind of been mentioning this, right? That our history impacts where we are today, but we must use the tools that are available to us now to advocate for our rights. Okay. And part of what we have done through this training is giving you other perspectives or other ways and other tools to use to be able to advocate and get your story out there. But you need to understand the tools that are available and understand. So there are people that still do, I guess, community action events.
Absolutely.
There's ADAPT, which is a huge group, and people probably know what that is. And for me personally, I like to write and verbally tell my story, but I have tried out going to a rally and being a part of it and been a part of those things just to understand what that experience is like, so that I can see what's comfortable for me and what works for me. So you might find something now that works for you, but I encourage you, if you get the chance to participate in all types of advocacy around our movement, because it'll help you understand kind of where you fit and what fits your personal brand. So.
Absolutely. You never know what we talked about style a lot throughout these past months, and going to and experiencing these different types of tools or different types of events is another way to see what your style is. So this, I think, is an interesting topic to me, and I always love having conversations with Everett about this. And moving sort of beyond the ADA generation, because we are definitely considered that. And what does that really mean, Everett?
Well, and so it talked about how the ADA was passed July 26, 1990, which is at this point, I'll just be honest, it's a long time ago, right? And I am fortunate to be 36 years old and don't really have knowledge of the world before the ADA. Some people on this call do. But the question that veteran advocates always ask me is, what does our movement do to move beyond what the ADA is meant for our community? And so the question that you really want to think about is, what type of advocate do you want to be? How do you want to impact your community, and what causes do you support? The Family Care Act, which is the basis for Trail and why we kind of started on this journey, is just one, right? In what ways will you take what you've learned and forge a new path to new causes and other causes that you feel are important? And where does your story connect to in new ways? Is it about disability and employment? Is it about disability in higher education? Is it about disability history and the importance of getting out to everybody? Is it about the transition from your high school life to your adult life? It could be a ton of different places. And so where do you fit, and how do we help move this movement beyond what is the ADA, right? Because while that's so important, that seems to, it's not where we stopped, but it is our, one of our last major pushes, or our last major federal legislation. And so,
right. And just by being here, we're already starting to discover those things. You're a part of something that is bigger than yourself, and you're using your own personal story to fuel that movement. And that's very, very powerful. Mm-hmm. So what is next?
Oh my goodness. Is it over?
My goodness. Opportunities for growth, right? We don't talk about homework here anymore. We only talk about opportunities for growth. Read, watch, and learn. Everett mentioned that he even linked some resources in there. He's also offered that he has Josie's books at his house somewhere if you want him to give them to you. But there's so many different opportunities to be learning about the history of it. There are individuals on this call that are a part of that history too, and many more out there. So we really encourage you to connect either with those resources or with a veteran advocate and just listen, right? So not really, we talked about communication earlier on, and listening is a very active thing. It's hearing what people are saying, but it's engaging them in a conversation about what it was like in movements in the past. Continue to develop and share your story. So as you're talking, as you're reading, as you're listening to other people, you might start to think about your own story differently and how to share your story. Similarly to Everett, I wasn't as comfortable sharing my story when I was younger. And then over time, as I learned from other people, I became more and more empowered in the value of my own story. And that changed how I talked about it. And really think about where you're going to focus your advocacy moving forward. What's your first step? We hope you take the information here and continue to work with those that we've developed in this community to really create change. But there might be other steps that you want to take too. So really be thinking.
Well, and I just want to say thank you to the trail guides that supported this, throughout the months, communicating with the group members and trying to connect everybody. I just want to say thank you to all of you for the time that you put in, helping us kind of craft these trainings, making sure that you felt like it jive with what was happening out there in your regions and in the community. So we appreciate that. And with that, Josie, you want to talk about graduation? And if you happen to know the names of the books, I have to go look, Josie, but I don't know if you have one on the top, off the top of your head.
Is it on your bookshelf? No, I don't know. But there are like why I burned my disability books, and there's what are some of the other ones? I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. There are a lot of disability books. And so if you do a search on Amazon or Google of like disability history, you'll find tons, and they're getting better, obviously. And so, I'd recommend looking into them. So
Bob just said he's a veteran and he learned a lot from this group. I appreciate that, Bob.
thanks, Bob. Okay. So let's see, a few things going on. So the almost 30 of us on this call right now, I really, really hope to see you guys on May 11th at 7 to 8:30 p.m. I am going to both send you the flyer through this right now, and I'm going to be emailing it to you after this. But please come. We have not only you guys to celebrate, but we have some of you speaking, and we have the Pennsylvania Speaker of the House, and we have a really amazing disability advocate, Rebecca Coakley. I almost called her by her maiden name, who are going to be speaking, and bringing them in really is an honor. And so I want you to come. I want you to invite more people to come up. I see Taylor writing. Laura, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll tell you after this.
Okay. Okay.
I just was gonna bring up some more books.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Let me
Please put in the chat, tell people stuff. Yeah. And before we do that, I think, Josie, I really want to encourage people to come to the graduation, because
yes,
I don't think it's every day that you get the PA Speaker of the House to come to a virtual event. And Becca Coakley is definitely an advocate that I respect. I follow her on Twitter. She was just on, I want to say, Josie, on CNN or CNBC.
She very well could have been either.
For talking about COVID and disability and different things like that. And so she is definitely a voice in our community. And did she work in the Obama administration?
She did. She was in the White House. Hopefully she'll tell you what her job title was, because I don't know.
But yeah, you don't just get to see, this type of people or these type of advocates every day. So Josie kind of shot for the stars and kind of got some to show up.
Yeah. And invite, whether it be your family or friends that you want to celebrate with you, because you have learned and grown in this experience. Whether you were published or not, you guys have all grown so much. Even just the questions you're asking, have morphed so much. But the other part, invite, if you know other advocates who maybe would like to see these speakers. If you are interested, maybe you would want to invite your legislators. I think that'd be a great idea. One part would be because Speaker of the House will be there. And so I think that's always fabulous. And oops, I definitely did. Taylor, I'm trying to send everyone the flyer, and I just sent to Taylor. Sorry, y'all. But I did want to make sure that it's open for people to join. And just I wanted for the speakers also to be cool for them to be there as well, and to see how empowered and how important the disability voice is, and how Pennsylvania is empowered. So I did just share, hopefully to everyone, the flyer. It will be coming in your email as well. Anyone who has learned or grown from this series, please register to graduate. Whether you submitted something or not, you guys all spent time with us to learn and grow. Maybe you didn't have time to write. I get it. It happens. So please still register. And then also, I wanted to highlight a couple really cool things going on. Next Tuesday is the Dan Miller Mental Health Summit. You guys have gotten an email about opportunities. There are, in the afternoon on Tuesday, 5 trail members presenting. I'm going to share the link here to watch it. And believe that's at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. So that's available, and if you're attending the entire Dan Miller Summit virtually, there are some of us, 2 of us, who are speaking about MAWD, medical assistance for workers with disabilities, early in the morning Tuesday. We'd love to have you there. But some people have been also asking, what is the future of trail? And I have no idea. I would love to say that we'll run another one, whether that be another group and redo this or it would be a part 2. I don't know that. I'm trying to figure out funding for that. But I still believe that there will be a lot of upcoming opportunities that I will be sending info to all of you to see if you're interested in participating in. And so I don't think that those opportunities will be going away anytime soon. Is there anything else I was supposed to say?
I don't think so. I feel like you covered everything.
I
There
think so,
was
too.
a survey link in that last slide of the PowerPoint as well, for just feedback for us. So if something does continue, even if it doesn't, we really like to hear about how you felt things went, in terms of the training and all of that stuff. So please feel free to fill that out as well.
Everett said social event. He is Mr. Social, so I'm sure he said that. So we could do like a Zoom, like just hang out. We could do when we all get our shots, feel like a bunch of puppies. We could all get together and ideally meet at the Capitol. That was originally the plan until COVID. And I did want to also highlight, we have 2 individuals who have been published in newspapers, James and Christine, with their op-eds that they wrote for this. We have 3 individuals who are getting videos put together. Allie, you have your hand up? No?
I was clapping.
Oh, that's a clap. I'm sorry.
Yep, I was virtually clapping.
Virtually clapping. And I was starting to do some just counting. I think we've had 7 individuals meet with congressional legislators, like federal. A lot of you have written to your legislators or talked to, or their offices. I count either one. We've had a few people speak to other groups. One of our members has talked to a group that's working on redefining family at a federal level, so that more people and their partners or caregivers could be included in these supports for families. So like, you guys are rocking it. Even if, you know, like it's one step at a time, it's one step. And those are amazing. So kudos to all of you. Anything else, guys? Yeah.
Just please come to graduation. We really want to celebrate what this has been. That's all I can say.
You'll be receiving more info, and you, if you register, will get a packet in the mail with certificate and stuff. Please register. You're all worthy. And I would love for you to be a part of that. Yes. Okay, sorry, I'm watching all these comments in the chat box.
That's a good point. Do you want to put the link to some of those things, Josie, in the email summary?
Some of it I have. James, you can share yours in there. Christine's supposed to come out this week, so we will share that. I did share the one summit live stream. There will be an individual, Jorge, so that some of you remember he joined us a few months ago. He may be reaching out to some of you for a picture or your story or something. He is helping us to finalize some products so that all of you have something to take from this and share or, you know, use as you wish. You should be able to paste it in the type message here, James. Mark brought up a really good point as well. Mark has a really great email list of disability events that happen mainly virtually. Feel free to email him if you want added to that list. And once again, if there are some things that you haven't gotten pulled together that you wanted to finish, whether it be your story or a letter or an op-ed, and you haven't been able to get it done or you need more support, this is the month to reach out to us to help finish that up. So whether email your trail guide, and that we will make sure that happens. Any other questions or comments? We're early, so I don't feel right. Somebody tell us like a long story or something.
It's okay to go a little early if you want to, Joe. It's okay. We finally did it at the end. We finally got to the end.
We got it together at the end.
So graduation is an hour and a half. I wanted to give us wiggle room in case we ran over.
Well, apparently we're very efficient now, Josie.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, and I see some of you are telling me you're still turning in stuff. That's fine. What my hope is I want, as I mentioned, to be able to share stuff you all have done. Number one, to push this bill. Number two, to show how awesome you are. Number three, I want to show how important this type of training is so that we can get funding to do either something like this for more people or to progress what you guys have already learned and ideally have some live events as well. And so I need proof that you all are as awesome as we know you are. So, okay. Anything else, friends? Okay, well, as always, I'm going to stay on for a while. You guys can always hang out. But, otherwise, enjoy your night, everyone. It's still a little bit light out. So,
crazy. We'll see you at graduation, guys. Thank you
everyone.
for
Bye,
guys.
Branding experts, probably Everett.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Kelly. Or
Bye,
Allie.
everybody.
Taylor, that's up to you. You could reach out to Everett, Allie, or I on that. Laura, do you feel comfortable asking your question, Laura?
Yeah, I just was gonna offer, I have a couple of things. I just was gonna offer you some suggestions for books. The first one was, if you haven't read it, Enabling Acts by Leonard Davis.
Let me write this down somewhere. So you said enabling what?
Enabling Acts.
Okay.
By Leonard Davis.
Okay.
Have you read that?
No, but let me give you a precursor. I am not a good reader, so I tend to read short articles and stuff and not books unless they're Audible.
Okay. That is on Audible.
Okay, cool.
And then the second book I have is Judy Heumann just wrote a memoir.
Yeah. Is that? I assume that one's really good.
It's called Being Human, and it is a really good, well-written book. But the coolest part is, if you get it on Audible, Ali Stroker is the reader.
Oh, nice. That is cool. Melanie, are you in the hospital?
No, I'm at PetSmart. We're picking the dogs up from grooming.
Oh, that's a much better place to be.
Kind of plans. No.
Okay. I just saw fluorescence. I'm like, crap.
No, it's PetSmart.
Okay, that's better.
Yay! Melanie, it's good to see like your face in daylight.
Yes, yes.
That's true. It's like we didn't know what your face looked like.
And I didn't know you wore glasses till now. Yay, I learned something.
I know. When I said it all the other times, I'm like, oh, she's always like in a dark room, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like
I do
probably
love
her
her
bedroom,
face.
but I'm like, what is that? But, yeah, that is. Laura's right.
Isn't virtual world so weird? It's like, oh, I don't know what her face looks like. It's so weird.
But you know what all my bedding looks like.
I do. And you like
Yeah.
orange
Yeah.
a lot.
I always worried you had super cunning migraines and like had to stay like that all the time.
She just likes her secret cave. I understand.
I like my bed too, so.
Yeah.
Let me comment how
Especially
the
the dog
person
is.
wrote that I
The
like my
Melanie
kids
Mountain.
to make me laugh.
What? Oh, funny. So, Laura, I'm going to share those 2 recommendations somewhere for those books.
All right.
And if you have a library card, both Libby and Hoopla, you can do audiobooks and regular, like reading on your phone type books as well.
I need to go to a library or something.
I signed up for the Swickley one, and I haven't even ever been to the library, nor do I even live in their county.
Okay. I need to just buckle down and do that.
The disadvantage to library things, like I have Overdrive, which gives you free audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And the audio quality is really good, but the disadvantage to Overdrive is the waiting list for the books is forever, and they have
I've
a
heard that.
limited number of copies.
I don't think I read popular enough stuff that it'll be on wait too long. But yes, if you like are an avid reader and you want to read like stuff coming out, I've heard that's a problem. Mark, if you want me to kick you out, type it in the chat. I know it sounds weird.
And then also, have you ever read any articles by Stephanie Patterson?
Stephanie, and what's her last name?
Patterson.
I don't think so.
She studies like disability labor history at Rutgers.
Oh, okay.
I actually talked to her because I used one of her articles for my thesis. I'll send it to you.
I'd love that. Thank you. Yeah, that's cool.
Mark, did you get my email? I put it in the chat. I just want to make sure you got it.
Me or Mark?
No, Mark. I think you probably got it.
If he might be best if you email him.
Okay,
Which,
will do. I will do.
Did you see he put his email address in the chat?
Let me see.
It's in that comment that he put.
If I
If you
can't
don't
find
have
it,
it,
right-
email me.
Yeah, if I can't find it, I'll just look back at when you send this out to everyone, and I'll get it.
Yeah, it's Mark.Steidel, so you'll find him.
Okay, sounds true.
Oh, here, I can paste it. Nope, sent that to Everett. No, Everett's not here. Okay, there.
My other question is.
Okay, I see it. Okay, cool.
So Everett's not around?
He disappeared.
Oh shoot. Because, wait, my other question is, are there jobs at independent living centers?
Oh, I have one. I work with one.
Wait, hold on, wait. Laura, what's the rest?
Oh, sorry.
Are there jobs in independent living centers that specialize uniquely in like advocacy and policy? Because
I think it just depends on like what your center is really good at. If it's like a bigger center, because there's a lot of centers that have like specific departments on like housing, and like they're pretty big. Like Liberty has a pretty big still. So it just depends on like the size of your still and how many employees you have and, different things like that. But, I think like our center's small, but we have been doing like little things as far as advocacy. Our community outreach person is always reaching out to different people and seeing what they need and different things like that. So I think I don't know. I think it depends on your center in your area.
Because I would love to work with advocacy and policy stuff, but I don't feel like I have the qualifications or B, the physical stamina to do anything with service delivery right now. So if I were to get a job at the SIL, it would probably have to be more advocacy related.
Like I have a couple of jobs at the SIL that I work at. I do Josie has actually been a part of our peer support group one time. I also primarily do the information referral and person-centered counseling. So, and I mean, that's not a huge, like that. So individually, I feel like not in a way, but individually talking to people and giving them resources, I feel is part of the advocacy. It's not like large group advocacy like this or legislative advocacy, but it's helping people one-on-one. And most of that is on the internet. I mean, online.
I wish Kelly was still here because she's in your region. So, Laura, I think the question overall is yes. And as Rachel said, center to center is very different what they focus on. Like, I think that Disability Options Network, which covers you, does do some of it. So you'd have to contact Braden. But you could also go on the Disability Options Network website.
Yeah, I would start there and just look at it and then maybe come up with some specific questions that you have for Braden from there. That way he has an idea of what you're really wanting to do.
Yeah, because I'm about to graduate with my master's, so I'm looking for.
But like, I think that is like a great way to start because like, I started out doing different types of advocacy now that I actually look back on it, but I feel like just now I'm growing as a different type of advocate, doing all these different things that I'm doing, being like having different jobs in the SIL. And I have to give a huge amount of credit to our executive director because she's really pointed me in these directions and like got me connected with Josie, got me connected with a lot of other things and pushed me to do more, like, do the peer support group mostly all by myself. So she's really pushed me to, and like, got me to do a lot of things. Not that I wouldn't do them, and a lot of the things that she's asked me to do, I just keep like being like, okay. And because I want to grow, like I want to have a lot of things in my arsenal and be able to help people as much as I can. So,
and Laura, the other thing that I think you fit into, I'm not sure if this is your jam or not, is the Ms. Wheelchair Pennsylvania stuff. Even if you never wanted to be crowned per se, like they are doing a lot of connecting to different groups and learning opportunities. And that's how I knew Rachel's boss, and that's how I got Rachel. So
I have given that some thought, but what's the age limit for that?
When you die?
Oh, so it's not like Miss America?
Nope.
Because Miss America is 17 to 25, and I'm out of that bracket now.
I was, I think, 30 when I was crowned. America, so I was bored.
Wheelchair America?
Yeah, I was bored one year. I didn't want to do my doctoral dissertation. That was the real thing. That's why I did it. But I think it's what's that?
I'm so stunned that if we didn't have captioning, certain 4-letter words would describe how I'm feeling right now.
Let me actually turn off the live Zoom part, so in case any of you do swear, it's not a big deal.